Let me ask you a question because, and then we'll get off Alex Jones and stuff because Alex Jones doesn't believe in QAnon either. He calls them Q-tards, I believe, right? You
Well,
know,
now listen again, man, and I've remained consistent. In fact, um, I think that the video I'll send you to watch about Sandy Hook is just Alex Jones, Sandy Hook, and deep research, where I watched all of his and others' affidavits in court because he's about to get sued again. I don't know if you saw that, but they opened up the lawsuits, and that's gonna hurt, man. They can go after Free Speech Systems LLC and Jones, and he's a smart guy. I'm sure he's moved a lot of his assets and whatever, but that is a really serious thing. Getting off of him and into just the idea that we should have free speech, man. It's like people should be able to. We have laws for that, right? So
yeah,
like if you defame somebody, you can sue them. If you say something crazy, you can sue them. When you talk about the disarmament and you talk about Las Vegas in general, well, I mean that looks like an arms deal gone bad over and over again. The guy had tannerite below. He'd been in and out of Vegas. His brother gets caught with child porn. He's got a wife that's in another country. He's with prostitutes. They lied about so many aspects of that, right? So we
yeah,
should be able to ask questions.
yeah.
There's so much of this going on and has been for some time, with or without Jones. Jones is kind of the vehicle, but he's also um, the one kicking and screaming enough that's garnered the most attention to this stuff. But
Yeah,
again, we
yeah.
should be able to ask the questions. And if you listen, man, if you put somebody on blast and say they absolutely did something, defamation's a real thing. It's been around, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't get why we're not allowed to talk about certain subjects anymore at all. If you cross the line, then you cross the line. It ends up going to court.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
it.
It's funny because, by the way, Accidental Activist over on the Rock Fan giving us a Super Ray. Love the Super Ray. She says, Burmis has been my kind of unity since We Are Change. So glad he's fam. Keep up the excellent work, Combo Couch. And that's Shonda from Roar Media, who is now on Rockfin as well. Really quickly, because I want to get to a few other things. We have a lot of things to unpack, and we could talk about this shit for hours. I mean, the conversation we had in the car when we were in DC together, we were just like, wow, blown away. And like, Johnny was taking notes, and I was like, holy cow, I love talking to these guys. It's so different than a lot of the conversations we have with our leftist friends. But yeah, Johnny has a question real quick.
Sure. I can't hear him, but
No. All right, wait. He's just checking the audio to make sure everything's okay. Listen, I want to talk about QAnon really quick because I want to talk about the negative aspects. I want you to tell us the most ridiculous thing you've ever saw on Q briefly. Don't go too deep into it. But then I want you to comment on the fact that with Q out there, now people tend to look into the government a little bit more and question things. The Epstein situation, which we understand, like, because a lot of people say, well, what do you believe? Do you believe there's these pedophiles running around Hollywood and whatnot? I'm like, listen, I don't know what to believe. I don't necessarily believe in adrenochrome and all this other bullshit, but I can tell you the Epstein situation was real. You know what I'm saying? And Epstein was a pedophile. And he got, he promoted pedophilia amongst his group, and other people participated, including the Clintons. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know to what extent, but they were around him enough to the point they shouldn't even be allowed to be on TV, but yet they're at the inauguration. So, number one, what was the craziest thing you ever saw on Q? And number two, isn't there some good aspect of this drop board coming to make people go, hey, wait a second, maybe we should question stuff within our government?
it's so tough for me, man. Because you ended the last one with, now Alex is defaming Q, but at one point Alex actually said, I talked to Q, okay, and was pushing it and selling merchandise that said we are Q, and that's the problem. Like it built this cottage industry of liars who said that they had inside information and were talking to the actual white hats that were working with the QAnon network, and that caused a big problem because number one, the grifters came out in force, but number two, a lot of people started believing it because they wanted to believe grifters like David Wilcox, who's been grifting his entire New Age career, and you see him on Ancient Aliens and has been working. He worked a similar grift with a guy named Benjamin Fulford, where they were talking about the Yakuza fighting the Illuminati behind the scenes And
The
I interviewed
Yakuza.
the Yakuza.
We're
Again,
bringing the. I never heard the Yakuza bringing the place.
listen, brother. Again, this you want to talk about crazy, right?
The
But like,
Yakuza, man.
but this is like honestly where the grift started. You know, it wasn't with 9/11 Truth. Those guys glommed on to 9/11 Truth, people like Wilcox and others. But Benjamin Fulford was a reporter for Forbes that basically went alternative and then went into these, Illuminati aspects. And then it's all of a sudden the Yakuza's fighting the Illuminati behind the scenes, and there's all these underground wars. And Wilcox joined the crew, and Wilcox is one of these big promoters of the grift, right? And when you're pulling in tens of thousands of dollars a month, you don't want that grift to end. It's a big deal,
Yeah.
So you create bot accounts. You'll even spend $1,000, $1,500 on people maybe being those bots or promoting this stuff or making you bigger. Maybe you get recruited by the FBI as an asset because
That's what I'm saying. A lot of people feel that the FBI and the CIA pay grifters or go put information out there that's so outlandish that it will kind of soften the positive stuff or the truths on there that it make it all just irrelevant and stupid. And I see a lot of leftists now using that same type of rhetoric, going, "You want to side with these people who believe in adrenochrome, that there's this underground death cult and all this other bullshit, and you want to believe them?" In other words, they paint that broad stroke about everybody on the right and QAnoners and yourself, and would lump them in to kind of loosen up the blow of the truthing things that do come out, like this whole Epstein scandal.
Well, the other thing that's really interesting about those FBI type people, in my opinion, is, you never hear me like spending a bunch of time threatening other creators or saying other creators are feds or they're shills or whatever. Wilcox is about the only one that I throw out there because he is the Ancient Aliens crew. And dude, he's been grifting for over a decade. It's just like so obnoxious. I can't not say it. But I also say it about him because he knows he's a grifter, and I don't think he's an FBI guy. He stays out of court. There are these other guys out there in the quote-unquote alternative media. Anytime they can, they get into a court battle with you, okay? All of a sudden, like, you got these alternative media personalities that are promoting this kind of stuff and, these type of theories and don't worry, something's going to happen. The storm is here. And even like right past the inauguration, right? You're getting those in the DMs, I'm sure. I've been debunking the stupid stuff. I mean, well,
that was my next question to you after. Well, first of all, yes or no, is there some positive things that have come out of the whole QAnon, the Anon mentality, the fact that now people are looking into stuff that they never looked into before? I know it gets crazy out of control and they get to the adrenochrome kind of mentality bullshit, but I mean, isn't there something positive now that people are like, well, wait, we have to at least now question what our government's doing, I mean, what you talk about with the 9/11 stuff is a lot more like online about the things we should be questioning rather than what's going on underground with this underground death cult of Democrats that are running the planet and going crazy.
Man, it's so hard for me to even put a positive spin on it. And here's why. Because it really does feel like the culmination of the work of Cass Sunstein post-Bush into the Obama administration in saying, Jesus Christ, man, there's a lot of these guys talking about 9/11 truth, and we got Seahawks coaches like Carroll talking about 9/11 truth to generals when they come over for dinner, and this is making media. How do we fucking spin this, man? And then you get Cass Sunstein, and he comes in during the Obama era, and all of a sudden things change a little bit, right? Jones does, and this is when I'm uninvolved. I was there for the Obama deception, and then Fall of the Republic was released just around the same time as Invisible Empire. So yeah, we didn't like the Obama administration for a lot of reasons, and I think just ones. Obviously the guy was a puppet. For those that don't know, and I know this is going to be hard for people to believe and say, this is conspiracy theory territory, Jason. Obama, his actual name growing up as he was an adult man, into being an adult man, was Barry Soetoro. It wasn't Barack motherfucking Obama. I promise you that. Number one. Okay. Number two, when they tapped him to be some kind of a political figure, he was already compromised for many reasons. I would say go check out Larry Sinclair and Wayne Madsen's work especially. Larry Sinclair's an accuser. I'm not saying 100%, that, you know, everything he says is real, but go look into that. He then became a character based on an actor named Henry Lennox, who they had coach him for the position he would be in. That is factual.
Hold on. Now, listen, this was the big part of the QAnon, or not QAnon, I'm going to say any truther or whatnot, or talked about this stuff. This is where the left said they inserted racism with this, okay? Like, if you're talking about this stuff, Donald Trump, he's being racist. And I was like, he's not being racist. He's kind of signaling to the truthers out there, you know what I'm saying?
Well, let's talk about something, Pasta. You know what I didn't talk about right there? Birth certificates, or whether he's a citizen. None of that really matters. Did you just hear what I fucking said to you? The guy is a total phony. I'm not saying you, but I mean to the audience. You know, those leftists that would say, oh, well, you're just going conspiracy theory. It is not a conspiracy theory that name that he took up after the fact was because of political motivations. It is not a conspiracy theory that he is based on an actor who coached him. Anybody right now, and by the way, you can't do it in Google. You want to see something funny? Go to Google and type in actor who coached Obama. You'll find nothing. Go to DuckDuckGo. It'll be the first thing that comes up. You could even type in Henry Lennox's name, and there's pictures of them together. And Henry Lennox talked about how he was his friend and did voice. They sound exactly alike. That's the thing. His voice and inflections and everything about Henry Lennox. He even looks a lot like the guy. Okay.
All right. Let's not spit off to that, because that's a whole other show. But
I'm just saying, dude, the guy was not qualified for what he got. He was a state senator in 2004. They had him as the keynote speaker. He had still not gotten a Senate position. Okay, he'd still not been a real senator. He got his Senate position there. He ran 4 years later and won. That means he announced that he was going to be the president in half a term of Senate. He was the least qualified actual politician in the history of politics to run for president, let alone win.
Well, they didn't have a lot of dirt on him like they had with Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden, and they can win either way. But let me ask you this last question, because I don't want to spin off on that, and I know there's a lot of, I have an old boss who always talks about, he says this, the Barry Soetoro name, and he talks a lot about, that stuff. So I don't want to get into that right now, because I want to talk and want to concentrate about what's going on right now, because you've been getting the DMs. I've been getting them too. And, even a friend of mine put up a tweet the other day with a girl crying, Trump, come rescue us. We need your help. And he put down, Q people, go talk to your peeps. They need help. They're not okay right now. And I even had somebody texting me, hey, will you stream my live stream? I'm going to Washington. I got to figure out what's going on. I'm like, why are you going to Washington? They were just on the Senate floor with Rand Paul. They were just on the House floor. It's over. It's like The Sopranos. It's over. Like, move on. This is what happened. Joe Biden is now the presidency. Trump is not coming back out of the woodworks with Matt Milley and all these people within the government and in the military and stuff. Can you please give me your assessment to those people out there who still think that there's the hopium that they're still snorting, that there's something in the works and Trump is coming back? Can you please explain to them it's over? And I would even go as far to say 2024 is not going to happen, because he didn't pardon Assange. It's not going to happen either. So can you please give your thoughts on what's going to happen with the presidency as of now today?
Well, the presidency as of now today, and as it will be, is unfortunately Zombie Joe and the puppets that control him. Okay, that's real.
Yes.
All of that hopium was nothing more than that. I warned people when we were down to the wire and people started talking about Pompeo becoming president, and the delusional fantasies got worse and worse and worse. And I explained to them, listen, the Supreme Court's not looking at it. It's over. I said, if the Supreme Court looks at it, we might see something. After that first ruling, we knew it wasn't going to happen. Obviously, I was at the rally with you to see where it was going to go. None of us could have predicted what would happen at the Capitol, right? None of us. But they ended up certifying it after. Again, the only time I've ever seen a violent insurrection without Molotov cocktails that wasn't successful, where the government was so scared they stuck around and then reconvened and then certified an election.
Hey. AOC was scared for her life, Jason. And now we learn it's from people who work next to her too as well. So Stop.
Yes,
Yeah.
of course.
Listen, at one point I thought they were going to ask a dude, like, do you have your ticket? You can retrieve it for your soda and your hot dog right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was ridiculous. And I say this all the time. If there was a real insurgency plan by Trump supporters, it would have been a lot harder than that to stop them, and they would have brought some serious artillery. We saw no artillery. We saw the 2 Confederate flags that you saw, but the majority of people were hanging back. You know what I'm saying? There was like, and I even thought they were going to start moving forward. They weren't. After we were leaving, people were like just bewildered and looking back like, holy shit, what the hell is going on over there? So, so what you're saying is that Donald Trump is not hiding in the woodworks. He's not coming back. That you and Patrick Burns, who even told people, hey, guys, it's time you realize that this Q thing is full of shit. And this guy was at the White House with Sidney Powell, and they were saying clearly they want to try to go every single way, legitimate-wise, legality-wise, through the courts, and if it doesn't work, he's going to get in a helicopter and go play golf for the rest of his life. So could you please tell the people out there, in your opinion, is he coming back?
I played his farewell speech. People then said he never said Joe Biden's name, and they thought that, yes, he'd just gotten out of Cheyenne Mountain or some other fairy tale. I explained it was over then. That was too harsh for people. After the fact, now I did a broadcast earlier today with Steve Poikonen because he has opened up literally, how the Clintons had the Clinton Foundation, all these presidents supposed to have something. He called it the office of the former president. If you look at all of the actions that were taken against him prior to him leaving office, they were tremendous. He was blackballed in the media where you didn't even see that farewell address, by the way. I had to go, it wasn't even on C-SPAN, which shocked me, because C-SPAN usually carries everything. They didn't even have it. I was like, whoa, this is crazy. So then the next big thing, and I just had to debunk this the other day, is people were trying to tell me that Joe Biden signed those executive orders from some other office replica, not the White House, right? So I go, look, man, I don't even know what video you're talking about because I have 2 screenshots and somebody circled there was a truck on the lawn. That's not any proof to me of anything, right? Show me the source video. Explain to me why this isn't the White House. So, this guy who's just full Q, writing diatribes I don't read, right?
Yeah.
Accusing me of not doing my research, right? He sends me a 2-minute clip of Biden signing the executive orders from The Guardian. I'm like, this isn't the goddamn source video. I go, okay, there's some stuff in the background. Doesn't mean anything. I'm going to go to C-SPAN. So I go get the source video. You literally see them pan to the left and to the right. They're definitely in the White House, and the press goes out the door.
Yeah.
And for the 5 seconds of research that I had to do, I just typed in Trump Oval Office, found something with him in the Oval Office. Guess what? There's a truck right behind Trump's head. The press leaves to the left the same exact way from the same exact room and the same exact building. And people are still on it, man. I'm trying to reach out to them because, you talk about the good thing. Maybe the good thing is that they found a guy like Pasta Jardulo or a guy like Jason Burmis, and they can have that come to God moment and that discernment moment and kind of vary the reality of what they're being told, in the media is fake, but not necessarily the alternative media is telling you the truth. Just from that beginning journey, man, when I was looking at Ike stuff and seeing Phil Schneider and watching old William Cooper stuff, all that stuff, take the information for what you can, use your skills, see if you can actually back it up with any evidence. If you can, then it goes up in the information realm, right, of reality and being able to present to people, and then use your discernment. And that's why, listen, I love what I do. I wish it wasn't so dark. I wish the times weren't so weird. I wish this wasn't a transhumanist agenda. I wish this wasn't about total control. But post 9/11, dude, that was another thing. I was an adult. I was a young adult. But living through that and just the vibe around everything and the way the world turned upside down for me and the worry that I got then and seeing what was happening in these forever wars. That many people, we're going to be in there for 9 months. It's just like we're going to be locked down for 2 weeks. People were like, after we rolled through Afghanistan, they were basically like mission accomplished. Oh, we'll be there another year, and we're
still there.
Forever.
Yeah, we're still there today. They're still spying us. They're still looking at us. But I don't, Jason, I don't think you realize that the United States is a corporation, and Donald Trump is trying to change that corporation to. I'm like, guys, just
You want to know what's
Stop.
hilarious about that, bro? So again, I have a film called Shade the Motion Picture. Also excellent. I encourage people to check it out. Now in that I feature a guy named Jordan Maxwell. Now I have a huge disclaimer in the beginning of that film that says, look, there's a lot of things that people in here have said that we don't necessarily agree with. And even the guy I did the film with, I don't necessarily agree with everything he says, right? So I put that in there, but he's got great parts. Jordan Maxwell has been talking about the United States and the corporate America and your social security number and all these things for decades. I have it on my YouTube channel. Like, I have the whole interview. This stuff has been regurgitated again and again and again, and it has nothing to do with reality and the now. Do you understand they took away Trump's contracts he had with New York City? You understand how illegal that is? Do you understand they stopped letting him bank certain places in Florida? They are targeting this guy. He's in control of fucking nothing, Pasta. Nothing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the Q stuff, instead of going out and hunting that shit down and hunting down these real conspiracy theories, they should stick to the things that you talk about, that Steve talks about, that I talk about, right? Like, let's declassify every single document you got on 9/11. There are survivors, families of people who, victims, the families of the victims that's Tulsi stood up with there. They want answers. They want documents declassified. Same thing with Julian Assange. We want transparency. We want this guy let go. Let's start diving into that. Elections. Let's start demanding all the data, because that's what they're doing right now. They're using all this QAnon stuff and conflating shit and saying, well, now you can't even have more information to the actual data for the registration polls, or when Trump, who promised to declassify some certain information when it came to 9/11, right? To provide those answers, and from the Saudi government and whatnot, those people, and hold them accountable, never did it. He turned their backs on them. So, I mean, these are the things that we need to be demanding information about, declassifying documents that are out there, demanding transparency, get away from all this other stuff. Ladies and gentlemen out there who still think that Trump is hiding in the bushes and doing something, cut it out. It's over. Time to move on. We have other battles to fight, and don't let them take this bullshit information and muddy the waters so we can't find out the information that we really need to find out. So that's my thought process on that. Let's talk about the Boogaloo Boys. Have you had any relationship? I mean, you've been seeing what's going on. You told me you watched the video that I had with the Boogaloo Boy, that guy Magnus. He was on Jimmy Dore. We also got attacked for putting out this article and talking about Fred Hampton going to work with this, what we classified as, white nationalist that had supremacist views, that flew the Confederate flag, but Fred Hampton went and worked with them for the common goal. And the Boogaloo Boy talking about somebody where we can find some commonality. Have you had any experience with the Boogaloo Boys? And what are your thoughts on them overall?
I wasn't even sure they existed at one point. I guess that it's this post Proud Boys thing, and they're wearing Hawaiian shirts. Only what the media has told me, right? So the first time that I'd ever heard an in-depth interview with anybody or seen a long-form speech was on your show, and I thought it was awesome, actually. And that doesn't mean that I'm endorsing these guys. I certainly have no affiliation with them, just like I have no affiliation with the Proud Boys, and I've really joined nothing. I've marched with Code Pink before. I have no affiliation with them either. Before the Tea Party was the Tea Party, when it was the 9/11 Tea Party, I marched with those. I never signed any papers. I never pledged my allegiance. But I really, really enjoyed what you did. And I know that you in particular wanted to talk about the Michigan incident.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that, because that's been something after we talked to them, after Jimmy talked to them. There have been people on the left, who said this is disgusting. You shouldn't be talking to these right-wing white supremacists. And they also tried, not only are they kind of connected to the same people who stormed the Capitol to try to take over our government, they also tried to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer, the governor of Michigan, and whatnot. And I didn't look into that story. I thought it was a lot of malarkey when I heard about it. Maybe you can give us a little insight, because I know you got the receipts for stuff like this. This is right up Jason Burmis' alley right here. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to watch Jason Burmis, he'll show you the receipts for shit like this. Go ahead, buddy.
So, yeah, I mean, if you're looking at this Wall Street Journal article, this is just one of the things that kind of scratches the surface of what actually happened. In Michigan plot to kidnap governor, informants were key. So what did you have? You had a bunch of guys that were anti-lockdown, that were pro-Second Amendment, that weren't really talking about kidnapping Gretchen Whitmore, but we're really talking about how do they go about changing these rules and possibly having a citizen arrest. But then you have FBI informants in there. So the way that they access these informants is either they offer them money, right, or they professionally infiltrate these groups, but more than likely they put legal pressure against somebody that you've known for a very, very long time. All of a sudden they entrap them in something. It's like, well, if you don't want to do time, this is how you're going to help us. And time again, they're the ones that incite these plots. So much so that the local sheriff, I'm not going to be able to play the clip on this, but I'm going to show people the headline, and I encourage them to check it out. Michigan sheriff defends militia members charged to plot to kidnap Governor Whitmer. And of course, they demonize this gentleman for it. But even in this 2-minute clip, he talks about, look, I don't know these guys personally, but I've seen them about. They've always been nice. They've always been respectful. They don't have a history of breaking the law. He's like, and they were trying to, do you regret being next to them? And he's like, no, it's supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. And he basically alluded to a lot of these cases not only being entrapment, but false overall. You go back to the Newburgh Five, right? And here's the thing. Take a look. The look of these guys and the people that they arrested, they're out of central casting, right? Obviously, they're white supremacist Nazis. Well, back in the day when it was the war on terror, right, and you look into what the Newburgh Five were about, and people need to do that, what did they do? They were going to mosques. They were targeting these poor Muslim men that had records, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they had this guy who was promising them the world and driving in nice cars and said he had money to do a bomb plot. Now, the truth of the matter is these guys didn't want to bomb anybody, but they thought they were going to be able to rob this guy because they were low-level criminals.
Yeah.
See how that works? So now that's the model with people who are rightfully upset about our constitutional liberties being stricken, and they do that again and again and again. And, I was having a conversation with somebody who's, been around the world, was just over in Dubai, and she buys especially into the Islamic jihadi terror narratives and these sorts of things. And no one's saying that doesn't exist or that radicalization doesn't exist, but when you get to an upper echelon level of a multifaceted, large-scale, media-friendly terrorist attack, the feds have their fingerprints all over it all the time. And what do I mean? You go to 1993 and the first World Trade Center bombing. Again, these people that they convicted of these crimes were literally on the level of mentally retarded folks, just above that. They built nothing. Instead, they were infiltrated by an FBI informant who happened to be an Egyptian army officer. Now, this guy they didn't have to pressure. They basically found him. He was an old military guy working in a hotel trying to get ends meet by getting money. And since he was actually skilled, they had him build the bomb that went off in the World Trade Center.
Yeah.
So these other people that they convicted actually didn't build anything. They drove the bomb there. And Ahmad Salam was assured that, of course, the bomb would never go off. Ahmad Salam wasn't a stupid guy, and this is actually in my film Invisible Empire. When they started talking about him making the actual thing, he started recording his phone calls with the FBI, and that's what saved him, because he had his handlers admitting that they had paid for this and asked him to do this. And he had said that, he wanted to build a dummy bomb, and they were like, no, that won't hold up in court. This is how these things work. And I've been trying, and think about that. That's back in 1993, Pasta.
Yeah.
We're talking about almost 30 years ago they were implementing those tactics, and now they're expounding upon them.
It's kind of like, I don't know if the one video with Batman and the Joker, the one with the good one, the best one, when they grab one of the Joker's guys and he was like just crazy, whatnot, and stuff like this guy won't give you anything. He's the typical type of recruitment for the Joker. Therefore, what I'm saying? Like, he's just crazy. He's nuts, whatnot. It's almost like you said the FBI or the CIA recruits these people who are very unstable or whatnot, so they can really just use them as pawns to do their dirty deeds. Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah. I mean, you take people. First of all, when you need to manufacture it out of nowhere, because you need the threat, you get something like the Newburgh Five, right? But when you want to take advantage of actual like people that want to do harm and might have connections to money across seas, you do something like the '93 World Trade Center bombing. You even look at Oklahoma City, and it's in Invisible Empire. There's no doubt there were explosives in that building. You have the media there as the bomb trucks are going in to get the explosives out. You have Governor Frank Keating confirming they took explosives out on the local news. I mean, these things actually, you can watch the bomb trucks go in. There was a truck bomb, but another bomb went off in the Murrah building for sure. And they said they took at least, I believe, 3 other explosive devices out of that thing. Timothy McVeigh, up until his death, said that he worked for Black Ops. In, I believe, before 2010, I think it was before 2010, Hustler was actually the only one that would publish it, but I got my hands on the video. There was a video of a military base that basically they were there to film a training session on actually controlled demolition and explosives. And, you know, Timothy McVeigh seems to be on that base cleaning up one of the tanks long after he's supposedly been discharged from the military.
Okay. So you're saying when it comes to maybe Oklahoma City bombing, 9/11, they cause these type of events, so therefore it gives the intelligence community, the deep state, whoever, the elites, whoever's pulling the strings, a blank check and permission slip to go do whatever they have to do to fight this kind of shit going on. In other words, the war of terror was spawned, the Patriot Act. Now they can watch their citizens. They can go over to seas and start bombing places. The military-industrial complex makes a ton of money. A ton of defense contractors make a lot of money. Everybody makes a lot of money off this crazy event they caused. How does this play, in fact, in your mind, to the Boogaloo Boys? Like, why were they doing this? Were they trying to squish this group that was more of a leftist kind of leaning militia, that where they protected a lot of Black Lives Matter people and they actually talked to both sides and stuff? Or was it for them to open up the door to Pandora's box to do what? Why would they do this Fugazi act on, you think, the Boogaloo Boys maybe? What would be the reasoning behind it?
I think that, no matter what, they don't want any type of armed resistance. They also don't like people who like the Constitution and Bill of Rights. You know what I mean? They also don't like people that reach out. I think it's almost a mythos that it's only going to be conservatives and, and Proud Boys, etc., that are going to be the domestic terrorists, and the evangelical Christians. You know as well as I do, these are just, that these are just avenues, right? To basically criminalize everybody and promote pre-crime. And again, if you don't get due process, if they're able to pin you as a domestic terrorist instead of a criminal, even better. That's why, that's another huge thing that bothered me about these Q people, is that they were and another thing that made me see through the veil very, very easily and quickly is they thought Guantanamo Bay was a good thing. Think about that spin, like that Cass Sunstein dream of propaganda. And
you're talking about the Guantanamo Bay, they're emptying it out so they can put people like Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi in there. Is that part where they were saying that stuff? I was like, guys,
yes, man.
I mean, I was just like, are you serious? There was even a report, I think, that Adam Schiff was even getting arrested at LAX, detained. I'm like,
I mean,
okay.
How many times was Tom Hanks arrested? How many? John McCain supposedly was executed there. It's nonsense. But again, it's that culmination of them realizing they were losing the narrative and then turning their own conspiracy theories in, right? That were absolutely outlandish, and actually at the end promoted their ideal sets. In 2007, when the Democrats were running in 2008, the very first YouTube debate, I did a watch along with it. Every question almost was about, when are we ending the war? When are we closing Guantanamo Bay? When are we ending the war?
Yeah.
When are we and everybody had an answer. Hillary Clinton had an answer. John Edwards had an answer. Barack Obama had an answer. Joe Biden had an answer. They were all going to do it.
Yeah.
It's 2021. Nobody did it, and no one's even questioning it. And now you got these people that think that they're fighting the deep state by saying that we need to have.
They flipped it. They can keep it open now. They flipped it. they've totally kept now it's open. That was the big thing from leftists is like, when are you closing Guantanamo Bay? And I thought that would lead into all these other black cells they have all around these other countries. No, now it's like a good thing for the QAnoners and these people to keep it open. It was like, guys, get your story straight. So really quick, just to recap, what are the lines of bullshit when it comes to the Boogaloo Boys? Just bullet points to make you question it. Give us that real quick.
I think that no matter what, and again, you can have free speech, but I think that no matter what, if you end up firing the first shot, you're done. It's over. I think that the reason that the civil rights movement in this country was successful is because they made the authoritarians use actual force against them, and they refused to use force. Now, some people will say, well, you had the Black Panthers, well, you had Malcolm X. None of those movements were successful, and arguably there'd be no doubt that those would be terrorist movements today if they were using the same actions, right?
Yeah.
Without a doubt. The truth was that now you had all these people of different colors making it very, very obvious that the state was using a force against these people because of the color of their skin. And we have to realize this isn't a race war anymore. This is a class war. And a lot of what they speak about is true. However, if we're now talking about armed militias and we're talking about targets that maybe aren't military targets or maybe are, you're going to lose, man. You're going to lose. These guys have robots in the sky, okay? And if you give them an excuse to put robots in the sky that can use force against you in this country, we are lost. That's a very big, real possibility, man. People don't see it, but I've been talking about this whole COVID 1984 thing, this transhumanist agenda. I just did a story on Sophia the robot and Hanson Robotics, something I've been following for well over a decade, and they're rolling them out. And when you watch, the DARPA dog and the Boston Dynamics bot dancing around to now that you can dance in a time when I can't see people's faces and they're dehumanizing us, yet they're humanizing machines with 1950s pop hits. What do you think's going on, man? I mean, look, I don't want to be doom and gloom. I'm so pro-humanity. Pasta, you spent some time personally with me now. I'm not some, I want to talk about this shit all the time. I want to smile. I want to look at girls. I want to have beers. I want to, I want to enjoy my life. I'm going to the girls' basketball games in a little while. I want all those things, but you know what I don't want to do? I don't want to have to wear a mask at this game, and I do. And that makes me want to fight harder, and that does upset me, and it should make others want to fight harder. So, that's the real deal, man. I think that we got to take these, and I said this with Steve, we got to take these people that were opioid addicts and make them actual activists. And to do that, it's a big transition from being a keyboard cowboy to somebody who's out in the street, and then we have to get them out in the street, not for underground tunnels with children and lizard people, but for the actual people that are trafficking those children around the world, because that's a real thing. You know what I'm saying? And be able to articulate that in a factual manner. And that's how we're going to progress.
It's funny because you're talking to those people who believe that everything was a conspiracy theory. And I'm talking to those people who believe that it's never a conspiracy theory, right? And trying to bridge the gap between them. And that's why I've become so fond of you and the work you do, because I thought you were just so misrepresented right out of the gate from people on the left that were like, oh, this guy's just another Alex Jones wannabe and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, the more I watch him, the more sense he makes. And for those Q-tards out there, and I don't want to call them those people who really believed in that, what Jason said is like, you got to get out of that space. You got to, and the people who just let everything go without questioning everything, question more. So thanks for coming on today. We have Jason Bermas. He's not a QAnoner. He didn't start it. He debunks the stuff. He's got some great movies out there. Go check out his website. Watch Loose Change. He's got a lot of other movies. We have to find a good space between what is real and what is not real. Jason, any last words before we get you out of here?
I just want to tell people again, I don't ever try to label myself. I don't think it's about left or right. I think it's about right and wrong on every single issue. I'm a human. I'm going to make mistakes. I will own up to those mistakes. But overall, I think, unfortunately, the world is a much darker place than some people would like to realize. And then when people do realize it, they get lost in all these things that may not be factually true, and they want a superhero. No one's going to be your hero. You got to be your own hero. You got to get out there and do your own thing. And there's a lot of ways to do it. So don't think that you're boxed in. Don't think that you're alone. Turn a negative into a positive. We all can do it. And I want to thank you, Pasta, because I really enjoy your stuff. And again, it's good to be able to come at things from different perspectives and have conversations.
Well, thank you so much, man. We had that conversation. You gave me a little hope when I was saying, like, man, what's the use? Why do you even do this anymore? It's just the land of confusion. The waters are muddied really, really heavily now. But I guess that's time to us to dig in deep and do what we do and continue to put the truth out there and have some humility and say, hey, man, we can make mistakes. We're human beings. We're loving human beings. And I think that's a good thing, Jay. And I can't thank you enough. And I look forward to having more of these conversations with you, man. So thank you so much. And thank you to Andrea, who left us a Super Ray on the Rockfin. Go over to Jay's Rockfin. Go over to my Rockfin. He's now past us in subscribers. I want to catch this son of a bee over here. It's a good, friendly competition, but it's a great platform for us for the things that Jay talks about and the things that I talk about, we talk about here on the Convo Couch. This is a platform where they don't shut our mouths and they don't censor us and they take good care of us. So for all those 400 plus people on the Convo Couch YouTube, get over to the Rockfin. You can endorse us. Hey, listen, if you endorse Jason for $9.99 a month, you get my premium content for free as well, and vice versa. So you get everybody's love there for just one payment of $9.99 a month if you can afford it. And if you can't, sign up for free, advertisement free. It's a great platform. We love you. For Pasta Jardula and Johnny Sue on the ones and twos, with Burmy out there, I'll let Jason Burmis. We'll see you later.